Welcome, everyone, to Mythstorie, a podcast about myths and history. I am one of your hosts, Bryant, with my permanent guest and co creator, Cammy. Hey, Cammy, how are you today?
Hey, Ryan, I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well too. We are jumping right into these things. We missed. I think we missed a week, but we're here. It's all good. Don't
It was
fret.
my birthday.
That's right. Yeah. So if you didn't say happy birthday to Cammy, you're not a real fan. Turn off the show now. Get out of here. No. If you're just joining us, so Mythstorie, we pick random lexicon, deep topics, legends, myths. We've recently had some great episodes. I really enjoyed when we talked about the last Viking, Harold Hardrada, and so did YouTube. I noticed that one kind of popped off a little bit. But we've also talked about things like Karna, Lakshmi from the Hindu mythological figures. And we, of course, touch on many topics like Greek and Roman myth. This time we're following the tradition of Hindu, not by talking about another Hindu figure, but by talking about a lesser known mythological figure, and that would be Quetzalcoatl, who is a Mesoamerican deity. Mainly known through the Aztecs and the Toltecs, but as I'll talk about later in the show, you know, very very broad, very much like Thor, how many different peoples worshipped him, not just the Norse people. So Cammy will give a story of Quetzalcoatl, and then I'll lead sort of a little discussion about some facts, what we know, and what evidence we have, what primary sources there are of Quetzalcoatl. So, Cammy, take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So I used mythopedia.com, Quetzalcoatl by Evan Meehan, and wilderutopia.com by Jack Edit. And that article is Aztec Myth Quetzalcoatl rescues humanity in the land of the dead. In the days when the humans all died out in the fourth sun, and the gods were the only beings left to rule the land, two brothers went on a quest to revive humanity so that humans may rule in the fifth sun. The jade bones of mankind lay to rest in the land of the dead. Sholot, the evening star, told his brother he knew the path to the underworld, so he could lead them there, for he guided the sun each night to that place. And Quetzalcoatl said he knew the way out of the land of the dead, for he was the morning star, and he led the sun out each day to greet the world. So they set on their quest. When they reached the innermost chamber of the underworld, where the king and queen of the dead sat, Quetzalcoatl spoke up and asked for the jade bones of the previous race of humans upon which the two sat. The king protested. He had much wealth in jade because of the bones, so he didn't want to lose his riches. But Quetzalcoatl was wise and cunning. He spoke, "Humans are mortal beings. You are not to lose your riches, but will have them multiply. For when the humans die, they will return to you. But when they are on earth, they will make more humans to return to the seat of the underworld upon death." The queen was eager to return more riches to the place, so she agreed. But as she spoke, her husband cut her off. "Yes, you may have these bones, as my wife has said, but only after you've traversed the underworld 4 times and played my conch as loud as a horn." The gods took the shell and went to take their path, but the two were at a loss for how to play the instrument. It had no holes to blow and no finger holes to tune the sound. So they urged the worms to crawl from the depths of the earth and chew 3 perfect holes in the conch. And then they tried to play, but they were not able to make the sound of a horn. So they found a bee and had her crawl inside the shell and beat her wings. The horn blasts filled the entire underworld with glorious sound, so they returned to collect the bones. But the god of the underworld had a different idea of what taking meant, for he had no intention of the two leaving his place with them. He had his servants block their path out by digging a huge trench that they could not pass easily, and then he ordered his other servants to give chase so that they may fall into the pit. The two brothers ran, but Quetzalcoatl fell into the trench and broke many of the jade bones, mixing them up as he picked them up from the ground. But he had to continue, so he said, "Some people will be tall and others short, for their bones are broken. In the fourth sun every human was the same size." And he and his brother left the place of the dead, and when they returned to the land of the living, they took the bones and ground them up and dripped their blood into the bones, and then they ground corn into them to make flesh so that people may live. And the first sons and daughters were born into the earth again as the fifth sun dawned a new era.
Whoa. Check out that, that's like one of those recipes for almond flour pancakes
Right.
that you start, and that's the story you got to read, and then you finally get to the recipe.
Yes, the
That's really
recipe for humans.
cool. Right, yeah. That's really wild. I love that. I did kind of briefly see that's one of the famous stories, and it got me thinking. There's one story that I kind of came across, which is depicted as one of the most famous ones, is Quetzalcoatl's departure from Tallinn. Tallinn is a was the capital of the Toltec Empire at its height during the 9th to 12th century of the Common Era, and so huge city. Think like Rome at its height and stuff like that. And there's some myth regarding Quetzalcoatl leaving, and that being a prophecy of the Spanish arriving, the death and destruction that came through. And then there's this really cool idea that some people believe today, Nahuatl, the language spoken by that, by then and now, believe many people believe that he'll come back. Yeah, and that's a prophecy. Anyway, it made me realize that while this figure is very old, Quetzalcoatl, he's been worshipped very recently, and I'm really curious. I nothing in my evidence that I'll go through soon suggests this, but I wonder, are whether it's Greek mythology or things like that, Christianity has obviously had some big events happening with Judaism sprouting Christianity, and then later like Islam. Lots of different sects of Christianity have formed. And while there are many different tribes, to say the Aztecs and the Toltecs worshipped Quetzalcoatl is correct, but there were many Mesoamerican tribes, some that weren't in the orbit of these empires, and these empires shattered. And just like Rome, like Florence became its own republic. It wasn't they weren't like we're Rome. They were just like, well, a long time ago we were part of them. But I'm really curious if these if like the we'll ever figure out if like there was any big schism like that, like in the 2nd century BCE. Was there a huge like tumultuous, someone was like, no, Quetzalcoatl is the feathered serpent, and they're like, no, it was someone else. Anyway, that's Bryant's weird intrusive thought regarding mythology for the day. On to Quetzalcoatl. So we're talking about South America, America and South America, the Americas, as you may say. Quetzalcoatl, major deity regarding these peoples, mainly the people who spoke Nahuatl, and his name in Nahuatl means feathered serpent. And you'll see the unique art style that he's depicted. He has lots of feathers going on, and there's some like snake iconography regarding that. So it's really fun to see. There's some really cool things that we know about him, though. In the Aztec pantheon, he was seen as very benevolent and wise, associated. Cammy mentioned the morning star, also kind of associated as the god of the winds. He's also connected to Venus, the planet Venus, which I thought
I
was
saw that. Yeah,
pretty fun.
I think
Mentioned
his
a lot.
brother, like I guess the morning star is Venus.
Oh, that makes
Maybe.
sense. Sure.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I mean,
We're all looking at the same
or
sky.
not. I'm sorry, the evening star.
Right.
One thing, he reminded me a lot of Prometheus because he was
Sure.
doing all these things to help mankind.
Yeah, that story really, yeah, and that's he was like very benevolent, very much an ally of the people. So yeah, it was really it's cool to see that. Yeah, he's connected with the colors green, white, and yellow. The maguey plant, the bird quetzal, which you may have been familiar with, very pretty bird. There are some connections in the names there. I've done a little looking into. I read the Wikipedia page. So that's the looking into I did, but it is a very pretty bird too. Though there's several different kind of quetzals, but the main quetzal, very pretty. So how do we know what we know about Quetzalcoatl?
That's a good question.
Yeah, and it is. And if you were me, you learned about Quetzalcoatl because of Final Fantasy VIII. He's a summon in Final Fantasy VIII. It's a really cool looking.
Is that the one that drops like the super rare weapon?
No,
That's a different
that
bird. Okay.
I believe so. Yeah. So I when I was a kid, Final Fantasy VIII, there's this summon you get. It's Quetzalcoatl. It's the first time I saw this name. Couldn't have figured out where it came from, but it's this cool. It's like it looked like a hairy bird, but I can kind of see now. This is old PlayStation 1 graphics. They're feathers. It's like a flying bird, but it's also very like thin, like a snake. So I think they did a good job of depicting it. And it calls thunderstorm to wreck your enemies and do that. So again, when the winds and all that, I can see that. But how do we know about Quetzalcoatl aside from Final Fantasy VIII? What evidence do we have that Quetzalcoatl exists aside from Final Fantasy VIII? Well, there's a lot of archaeological evidence. There are many sites in throughout the Americas that depict Quetzalcoatl, including the pyramids of Teotihuacan, the Chichen Itza pyramid. And these give us literal visual representations of how Quetzalcoatl was worshipped and depicted just the day in the lives of the people of that time. There are some written sources that we have too, notably the Aztec codices and Spanish chronicles during their conquest that give us an idea of the role in society. So, of course, Nahuatl is a living language. Quetzalcoatl means feathered serpent. This is a continuation. We know this. So this is something that gives us more today. Some further evidence, and one of the oldest carvings that we have is at the Olmec site of La Venta, which dates back to around 900 BCE. That's crazy, y'all.
Yeah.
So this is old. This is ancient, but it's also very recent too. I think when we think of like Mesoamerican society, we tend to like kind of think Colombian, but even go farther back and but these cultures and societies were extremely well refined, and Rome fell and crumbled in the 4th century and fractured and stuff like that. And while Mesoamerica didn't have a Byzantium, it did have extremely advanced peoples. So keep that in mind. And Quetzalcoatl, this figure, we have references to him dating back to 900 BC. That's why, and again, so from 900 BCE all the way up to the 10th century CE, he's being discussed and talked about. So the Spanish Chronicles were a collection of books that were written by Spanish conquistadors and their descendants. These chronicles provide us with the information. The Aztec codices are a collection of manuscripts that were written by the Aztecs themselves. These contain a ton of information as well. It looks like, and I was interested, they mention, I'll have to find where I put the note. They wrote on tree bark. They would like kind of like process, and that's what they used to write on. So I thought that was really cool, that because I was wondering how the writings were kept, if they were kept at all. There was a few codexes as well, or codices, I guess I just said that. The Codex Borgia, the Codex Cospi, and the Florentine Codex. These were really cool that I looked into, mainly the Borgia one especially. It's a pre-Columbian Mesoamerican pictorial manuscript that's from Central America that featured calendrical and ritual content dating from the 16th century. So it looks like, I guess it was like kind of put together a little later, but it was really wild. It's one of the handful of pre-Columbian Mexican codices that were not destroyed during the 16th century conquest. And it just includes a lot of awesome information. Oh yeah, here we go. It was made from amate bark paper, a type of bark paper made from the fiscus tree. It is 39 double-sided pages long, or 78 single pages, approximately 1,030 centimeters, more than 33 feet in width when unfolded. These pages are filled with intricate pictographs and hieroglyphs, which have been subject to scholarly study. So yeah, I really love to see this. We get their calendars from the famous calendars, some famous calendars, the gods of the Aztec pantheon, rituals and ceremonies, astronomical observations, cosmological concepts. So it was really fun to see that one document was able to survive with such a wealth of information. And then again, so historians cross-reference these things with other things, the linguistic evidence, the archaeological carvings, things like that. And that's how we know about what we know. And just to throw like a pop culture reference, because this is pretty recent, other than Final Fantasy VIII, which was not recent at all. The latest Black Panther movie features the Marvel villain Namor. He's usually a villain. He's featured heavily in the X-Men, but and I think they mentioned the word mutant. They're starting to bring the X-Men into the Marvel universe. Cammy, I don't know if you know that, but
No, I did not know that.
yeah, they're creeping in. Namor is definitely like he was a big baddie in the X-Men world. They give him a Mesoamerican background, and it seems like he kind of essentially depicts like Quetzalcoatl in a way. He has wings on his ankles, sort of like Hermes, and he's allowed to fly, but he can swim. And there's a lot of connection to Mesoamerican culture with his character this time around, and his name Namor is he takes vengeance on these conquistadors because he's been around for hundreds of years, and this priest like says that he is like a boy without love, no, not love, Namor, Namor.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
It was cool. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. So if you watch Black Panther and you saw that, that's there's a lot of like references to it there, and it was really cool to see. And it's fun because it was weird having just Thor take over the religious ness of everything. So thanks for throwing something else in there, Marvel. But yeah, it was fun to look into Quetzalcoatl. I took a class a long time ago when I was doing my undergraduate on Mesoamerican society during the conquest, and I know the religion was really important. And it's really fun to see a little bit more, especially just like how when we touched on the Hindu topics, it's fun to see the evidence because we take it for granted sometimes, and I think we understand Greek mythology and Roman mythology a little bit more just because of how we're Western centered. But it's fun to see how it's very similar. The same sources for one civilization are mirror on the others, and just like how we know of gorgons and stuff like that because of these old plates and vases and jars, it's very similar in on the complete other side of the world at the same time. Again, 900 BCE. So, Cammy,
People are
thank
gonna
you.
people.
Yeah, that's all they do. Ra, the god, sun god. Remember that? I lost
Yeah.
my crap
Oh,
crying laughing because of that.
everybody. It's called Raw.
That's so funny. But thanks for listening, Cammy. Thank you for your story, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We hope that you enjoyed the show. If you have any topics that you think we should cover, please let us know. Mythstorie, remember it's all one word, but story is spelled with an IE instead of a Y. You can also reach out to me, Bryant, or Cammy. That's Cammy. You can reach out to us and let us know what you think. If you have anything you'd like to add that we should discuss, or any connection to Quetzalcoatl that you have, let us know. We always appreciate anything that you can add to our discussion. That we're here to learn. That's why this podcast is here. We just want to talk about stuff, and we're going to be wrong or miss some blatant things quite a bit. So I think that's the end of the show, though, Cammy. Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, so I had really a lot of fun this week. I know we
Yeah,
haven't really touched on Mesoamerican stuff too much at all, if
sure.
any. But next time, we're actually going to have a special guest on,
Yes,
Shanika from the Self Created podcast. So
that'll be
I'm
fun.
excited about that as well.
Yeah, having a third voice is always enjoyable. So, and if you ever want to be our third voice, let us know. We'd love to
Yeah,
have you.
please.
Yeah. All right. Well, everyone, thanks for joining us again, and we will see you next time.